Before COP30 started, countries across the world filed their plans to reduce emissions, and Simon Stiell, the boss of UN Climate, has announced that this would see emissions reducing by 12% across the world by 2035. Now, there are a couple of problems with that. Firstly, to stay below 1.5 C of warming, we'd need emissions to go down by 60%, not 12%. And secondly, a number of countries have got a history of over-promising and not living up to those commitments. On the other hand, China, which is obviously a big part of the global economy and a big part of global emissions, has a history of delivering far more than they promise. So we can hope that that will even out. But either way, I think it's clear that 1.5 C is not going to be achieved. And that means that one of the big issues for COP is adaptation. How do we survive in a world with rising sea levels, more extreme weather, increased spread of global pathogens, new diseases emerging, and everything else that goes with a very rapidly warming climate. So that's one of the things which is being discussed, everything from health to migration and other aspects. And along with that, there's a renewed focus on a fund agreed last year in Baku of $300 billion to help the poorest countries, which tend also to be those hardest hit by climate change. The trouble with that fund is no one's quite sure where the money's going to come from, and those poorer countries are saying even $300 billion is nowhere near enough. There's another fund being proposed called the Forest Forever Fund, which Lula da Silva, the president of Brazil, has announced, trying to reduce deforestation. Brazil has had a great success itself. In the last 6 years, the amount of deforestation has reduced by 80%. Although it has to be said, there is still deforestation going on along. And the idea of that fund is that it will help encourage more countries to stop deforesting in future. Alongside that, there's a great deal of interest in the behaviour of the forest as a carbon sink, absorbing CO2, and it looks possible that ahead it may be these sinks become saturated, they stop absorbing the carbon that we emit, and that would mean that for a constant level of emissions, the proportion of CO2 in the atmosphere would increase quite significantly. So that's an area to watch as well. It has to be said that this is not going to be a COP along the lines of Paris 10 years ago, which achieved that really major global achievement. But in a time when many countries are resiling from climate action, there is a real sense here of the urgency of continuing to find ways for like-minded groups, be they businesses, countries, civil society, to work together, because we're seeing the practical effects of climate change already playing out in the world in extreme weather.